Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be making quick pickled onions. These are great for sandwiches, salads, tacos, hot dogs, or really any place you would use onions as a topping. They can be used in place of or alongside the normal onion you're using, and they only take a couple of ingredients and they're mostly hands-off to make. Let's get going on them now. So, for our ingredients, we will need apple cider vinegar or white vinegar, either one will work, and you just need enough to cover the onions in your container. A handful of whole peppercorns. Again, no need to really measure this, you can just kind of toss a half a tablespoon's worth in or something, and that'll work. 2 tablespoons coarse salt, or 2 teaspoons fine salt if you do not have access to coarse salt. Also, optionally, there is 2 teaspoons white sugar. I usually don't use it in mine, but it can help to take the sharpness away from the vinegar if you find the acidity a bit overwhelming. So, for our prep, all we need to do is slice it into rings or half rings, depending on your use. First, we need to slice a small bit off the side to stabilize the onion and make it so it's not going to roll away on us. Since I'm planning to use these on hamburgers, I know I want mostly whole rings. I can always dice them into smaller pieces if I need to later. So I'm just going to do some rough slices to get some rings and some half rings as we go. I'm going to use the angle I'm cutting down on my knife to get the half rings and to get some variation in the thickness at the same time. For something like this where there's no cooking involved, the variation in thickness will have no effect on whether it's done or not, so we can instead use that variation to expand the textures we get in the bite feel of it. So while some will be super soft, and some for the first couple days will be a little bit firmer. A week after making these, they're all going to be about the same softness all the way through. Once you get to the end slices, you can kind of fumble around like I did here, or even better, you can just make bigger slices. The last bit tends to be a little bit awkward for holding and cutting though, so take your time and be careful, and if you don't feel safe cutting it this way, just cut it a different way, like lay it down and cut it in half, and that's fine to do, and just be safe. I'd say about 80% of kitchen accidents can be avoided by just slowing down and being more careful, so focus on safety and getting the results you want slowly, and speed comes with practice and use. Now, once we are all done slicing and dicing, or maybe both, we're ready for putting everything in a jar and waiting. Yeah, that's pretty much all that happens from here on out, is just waiting. All you need to do is dump everything you want in a jar. You probably want to do the dry and other ingredients besides the vinegar before the onions, unlike what I did here. That'll actually help the sugar and salt to dissolve a little bit faster. Now, onto the onions and pouring the vinegar. I usually will break up the onions while I'm stuffing them in the jar, or whatever container I happen to be using at the time, because it does make it pickle just a little bit faster, but really it's mostly, it looks better in the jar, so if you're setting that container on the table, then it's all broken up, it looks better to when they're pulling it out as well. Don't worry if any get broken or crushed while you're stuffing these in your container. They're all going to come out just fine, and that's just going to sort of, you're not going to notice it when it's done. Once all of your onions are in, you just want to fill the jar till the top of your onions are covered. You should also try to make sure they all stay mostly, or if not completely, submerged while you're storing them in the refrigerator as well, so the vinegar can kind of make sure that we don't have any bad bacteria or anything else bad happening here. I find these tend to last about 3 weeks in the refrigerator. Now that's actually how long they last before we run out, not necessarily them going bad, so I'm going to guess 3 to 4 weeks in the refrigerator they should be good. Once everything is in your jar, we move on to the hardest part of the whole thing, waiting. So, you will want this to pickle for at least 2 hours on the counter at room temperature, or in the refrigerator for about 4 hours before using them. This will give it a nice flavor, but it is just the start of the flavor. They will start to get slightly pink tone when they're ready to be eaten. Once they look like this, you can use them and they're going to be fine to eat and they'll have that taste. But if you wait 24 hours, they will start to look like this. Now, once you've reached this completely pink coloration, they're going to have the full taste you're going to get. At this point, both the color and the taste are going to be at their most powerful flavor, but don't discount using them the same night that you make them. For example, if you were doing fish tacos or you're putting them on a salad, you may wish to have the flavor be a little less strong so that the milder ingredients in the dish can still stand out. So it's kind of, you choose when you're going to use them based off of what it is that you're cooking and whether or not it needs a very powerful flavor or a very mild flavor. And with that, plus a day or so of pickling, you've made quick pickled onions. They don't seem particularly quick at first, but when you compare them to the 3+ months it would take for traditional pickling, they're actually really quite fast indeed. As I said earlier though, they can be used in all kinds of dishes. I've used them in salads, tacos, burritos, hamburgers, sandwiches. They make a great addition to avocado toast. They can be used in pico or in guacamole with or without unpickled ones. The only things they don't really do well in is anything that needs to be cooked for an extended period of time. If you think of it as more of a topping and only occasionally as an ingredient, you'll be golden. You'll probably get it right every time. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone who has been watching and sharing the videos, and if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more like it. As always, have a great day and a great meal.